Hey guys, Diana here from Fabulous Fridays, and tomorrow's date is going to be July 16th. Doing this video a little bit early just because tomorrow we're moving out of our condo. We're staying in Gulf Shores, Alabama right now because we just moved from Minnesota because I'm attending college down here. And tomorrow's topic has to deal with feeling an eating disorder. I have 3 separate parts I'm going to be covering today. The first question is, what happens when you get a strong sense of achievement with your eating disorder, and how can you get around this to no longer be triggered back into that problem? So this is really a big kind of issue for me, just because I know when I've been in recovery for 2.5 years now since my last inpatient treatment, and I do get a false sense of security sometimes. A good example of that is what happened to me this past month. I have currently moved out of my house for 13 years I've been living in Minnesota, and I'm in Alabama now because I'm going to college down here. So I've moved away from friends, family, everything I know my whole entire life, and I'm starting a new life down here, fresh start, and that has been really stressful for me, just because changing everything I know has kind of been hard. And the past month, since about June 10th to July 10th, I was in a slight relapse. It wasn't anything really serious, it was just like I wasn't eating as much as I should have, and I was restricting a little bit, mainly because of stress. And so that's an example of how being in recovery for 2.5 years, and then all of a sudden relapsing again with no warning. I didn't really catch on to it until I was about 2 weeks into it. I wasn't doing it really on purpose, it just kind of happened, and I started noticing I was losing weight, and then some of my friends started telling me that I was getting too thin and stuff again. So, but I've been eating more regularly now. So yeah, this is good subject for me because it just happened actually. Ways to get around this, I would say, are to, even though you think you've been in recovery and you're not going to get sick again, there's a very high chance that you will. There's a very high chance that you can get triggered and have a relapse, and as much as all of us don't want that to happen, it's bound to happen at some point. So don't get that false sense of security of that, I'm completely better and nothing's going to happen to me anymore, because a lot of us know that with an eating disorder, it is sort of like a lifelong illness, and you can and will either relapse or have your hard times, your good days, your bad days. There always will be that little thought in your head, about that you're not good enough or something like that. And I don't want it to happen, but it just happened to me. Ways I would suggest kind of dealing with this issue of the false sense of security that now that you're in recovery and better, that it won't get worse again, is one thing that I've kind of learned since this past relapse is what I do is I have started to realize that no matter how healthy I think I am, and no matter how far into recovery I think I am, I always have to be ready for the unexpected. I always have to be ready for something to happen, and for me to get triggered, for someone to say something that'll set me off, or for something to happen in my life that'll stress me enough, so I'll have to cope with it again in an eating disorder way. You always have to be ready for that to happen, and you can't blow it off, you can't brush it off, you can't think that it's ever going to happen to you again. You have to just be ready for it to happen. Maybe just keep up a strong front and look at yourself really critically each day, make sure you're still on the right track. Make sure you're doing things that are positive towards your recovery and not negative towards your own recovery. Make sure that you're doing things that will help you in the long run, and even though you think you might not need the recurring treatment help, you probably do. And it's always a good thing to have that therapist that you can call when something's going wrong. The next part of this question is the topic of not being sick enough to need help, and I know that a lot of us do struggle with this. There's that kind of competitive force between people with eating disorders, how they like to compare themselves to other people with eating disorders, other people that may not have an eating disorder but appear to be thin. I know I still do that, and as much as I don't like it, I do it. When I see someone walking on the street that's too thin, I look at them and I compare myself to them, and sometimes I want to be like them. It is a lifelong struggle, and it's something that us as people with eating disorders tend to do without thinking and without noticing and without really having a want or need to do it. We just do it automatically. It doesn't matter how unhealthy you are or how healthy you are. If you're at a certain BMI, that means you're going to be anorexic or not. If you're just starting to lose weight, if you're just starting your eating disorder, if you've been in an eating disorder for years or months, each person, no matter how far they are into it or not, they still do have a problem, and getting help early on is your best bet. Getting help as soon as possible can help you recover easier. I know that I only had my eating disorder for a couple months before I got into recovery, and my therapist always told me that since I'd only had it for a couple months, I would be a lot more likely to recover faster and sustain it longer, rather than people that have had it for years before going into treatment. It's a lot harder for them to recover and a lot harder for them to adjust. So the whole point of you not being sick enough is really irrational, because, I mean, if you have an eating disorder, you are sick and you should get help. You need help, and you should get help for yourself before it's too late. The third part for today's question is competition to being the skinniest among those who are seeking help. Why this is irrational and unimportant. This one kind of ties in with the one I was just talking about. We do the competitive kind of thing, especially when we're in treatment. I know when I was in treatment, the first day I was there, I looked at each girl, looked at me. I thought I wasn't as skinny as them. I thought I wasn't as good as good in my eating disorder as them, and I thought that I was the fattest one there. It's sad, but a lot of us are going to do that, like I said, automatically. Part of eating disorders is comparing yourself to absolutely everyone and everything. Doesn't matter if they're healthy or not. We compare not only looks, but we compare success, academics, anything that you value, you will compare with other people. And if you're not the best at it, it can trigger you. So not being the best anorexic or bulimic or eating disorder otherwise specific or binge eater can trigger you to go further. I mean, this is such a skewed view. It's so sick, the games we play, but it does happen. And I just want to say that you don't have to be the sickest. Being the sickest isn't the best. Being the sickest means that you're going to be the one that's going to die. So I would suggest going to treatment as early as possible, not valuing who's sicker than who, and dealing with yourself and your own problems. So I'll see you guys next week, and have a good weekend.